mother prayed for me. Yes, she did. She had me on her mind. Praise God. She took the time.
Welcome to Twin Lakes State Park here in Green Bay, Virginia. My name is Kevin Faubion. I'm the park manager here. I started back in April, and I remember in May when I first met Yemaja Jubilee and heard about her father's story, and I knew it was going to be special right then. And when we started working together in July to bring this all together and make it happen, everybody wanted to be part of it just because it was such a great opportunity. But I'm going to take a minute here to talk a little bit about the park history. So Twin Lakes State Park was constructed back in the late 30s and early 40s. At the time, it was not a state park. It was two recreation areas, and later on in the 50s, it became a state park when Monsieur Conrad Martin went to Stanton River State Park and was denied entrance and sued the state government under separate but equal to offer the ability for people of color to recreate in Virginia. So in the 50s, we had additional infrastructure built, and then later on, the two parks that were at that time segregated were merged together to become Twin Lakes State Park. So that's where we are today. We're currently on Goodwin Lake, the Goodwin Lake side of Twin Lakes State Park, and the other side is Prince Edward Lake. So that's a little bit about the park history of Twin Lakes State Park. Our next speaker is going to be the Virginia State Parks Director, Melissa Baker. She joined us last year, just about 3 weeks before COVID really hit. So what a time to join that join the agency and come into that position. It's been drinking from a fire hose, I'm sure, ever since. But we couldn't ask for a better leader. We're happy to have her. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce State Parks Director Melissa Baker.
All right.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is my great honor.
Good afternoon.
It is my great honor to welcome you and to honor Dr. John Henry Brown and to dedicate this shelter to the 1390th Company of the Civilian Conservation Corps. I want to take a few minutes today to talk about the importance of the CCC in parks. And not just state parks, but national parks. And it even goes beyond that. The world's parks are often modeled off of the national and state park ideal in the United States. And that ideal and what parks look like is firmly rooted in the work that the gentlemen of the CCC performed. So the CCC members volunteered to help their families. It was an important part of that time to bring sustainability and help their families get through the Great Depression, and that was worthwhile. But as so many things that this generation did, you turned adversity into legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we see when we look at Twin Lakes State Park, when we look at all the parks, all the recreation areas, and beyond that the CCC touched. That it endures, and it's going to endure past all of us, which is really special. So it's almost impossible to describe the legacy of these men. The roads, rails, bridges, dams, shelters, lakes, and cabins still stand today as a testament to their skill and their perseverance during that time. And in fact, in the parks and recreation profession, we even have a name for it. We call it parkitecture. It's called parkitecture. And it's the foundation of the character upon which parks are built. When you go to a state park, many city parks, national parks, when you see that beautiful stonework, when you see the wonderful woodwork, the craftsmanship that was there, that's what we mean when we talk about parkitecture in the park world. And we still try to honor that. And we can't recreate it. It's impossible for us to recreate the craftsmanship that you left for us. And so it's been a model which we've used for city parks, state parks, national parks, and the world has looked at it too. In fact, the entire Virginia state park system is founded on the work of the CCC. We were the first state park system in the country to not just open a park, but we opened a system of parks. So we had 6 parks. Douthat, Ferrystone, Hungry Mother, Seashore, which is now First Landing, Stanton River, and Westmoreland were all opened on June 15th, 1936. And every one of those parks were constructed by the CCC. Virginia does not have a park system without the Civilian Conservation Corps. And while our system was flawed by racism and segregation that prevented black Virginians from enjoying the things that were built by the CCC members, many of whom could not even attend the parks that they built. It was instrumental, the CCC was instrumental to building the park system that we enjoy today. And so the fact that we are here today enjoying this park, enjoying this infrastructure, it is an example of how that legacy surpassed the events of its day. For me personally, I've told a few of you today that I'm kind of fangirling. So Reverend Brown, I'm so excited to meet you today. I've studied the work that y'all did. I've studied the history of it. I've studied the craft of it. I've taught other people that. And my career is built on what you created. And that's true if you look around at the folks that are here. We have a big turnout from parks today. Bigger than I think we would normally have an event of this size. But this is important to us. It's important to the people who have dedicated their careers to parks and recreation. Many of us founded our careers in a shelter like this, or along a CCC trail, where we went and we enjoyed nature, we enjoyed parks, and we thought, boy, this is special, we should take care of it. And so my career is built on the work that you did, and the work that your cohort did. When we're in university, we study the history and the craftsmanship and the design of the CCC and the work that y'all did. When we plan renovations or park additions, we consider how new developments will affect and complement the work that the CCC did in parks. And in fact, since your time in the CCC, in these parks, tens of thousands of Americans have dedicated their careers and their working lives to managing and protecting what you built. And millions of Americans have come to the parks that you built and that your cohort built to be with family, to re-energize, to escape the stress of the day. Family memories are built here. Communities are built here. Again, I'm fangirling because I cannot say how much it means to me to be able to honor you today. So I say again, I'm incredibly honored and humbled to honor the 1390th and Reverend Brown today. At Parks, we like to say we're in the forever business. And part of our business, part of that forever business is to protect and conserve these places for future generations. And so for the many generations that have come and enjoyed what you built, and the many generations to come, I thank you. You've built a legacy during your time with the CCC, and it was beautiful and important. The bridges, the trails, the buildings, beautiful parkitecture. But the legacy that you left through that work is so much more than the simple structures that you built. And so I want to thank you for that. The park system thanks you for that. And with that, I would like to introduce the Deputy Director of the Department of Conservation and Recreation, Tom Smith.
Thank you, Melissa, for those great comments about the Civilian Conservation Corps and for your leadership of our Virginia State Park System. As you were talking about the history of the Civilian Conservation Corps, I've always been struck, I'm not a a Virginian. I grew up in rural central Pennsylvania. But for those of us from rural areas, I always felt like most people don't know it, but they were never really very far from a Civilian Conservation Corps camp. And it's emblematic, I guess, how, we grew up close to a camp. The evidence of the camps is largely gone, but the fantastic work, as Melissa pointed out, that the Civilian Conservation Corps did in those relatively short number of years lives on, and like she said, I'm always struck by the stonework and the architecture wherever you go across the entire United States. So what a fantastic legacy to leave. Thank you everyone for joining us on this beautiful day today here in Central Virginia as we come together to recognize the contributions of the Civilian Conservation Corps Company 1390 serving out of Green Bay, Virginia, and their work done in the parks and in the region in the late 1930s and early 1940s. We're here today especially to recognize Dr. Reverend John Henry Brown for his service to the Civilian Conservation Corps Company 1390, which started in 1941. Thank you, Dr. Brown, for your service to our country as a World War II veteran, serving out of Pearl Harbor and in the Pacific as well. Thank you, sir. I also want to thank all the veterans who are here today that may be in attendance in celebration and honor of your service to our country. As we all know, freedom is not free. Thank you. Welcome guests, family members, Dr. Brown, members of the community, Park Manager Faubion, and the incredible team that's here at Twin Lakes State Park and from the surrounding parks to help make this event happen. It's an honor to be here and dedicating this shelter to the contributions of Civilian Conservation Corps Company 1390 and the service of Dr. Brown. This picnic shelter that we're dedicating today in honor of Company 1390 was built, we believe, by this group of men that included Dr. Brown, along with many other features that have provided outdoor recreation opportunities, peace and solace to so many individuals over the generations. 1390 was also known as Camp Gallion M29, and here's a short list of some of the things that they accomplished in those few short years that they were here. They built 5 forest fire lookout towers, 94 miles of forest fire lanes, 62 miles of truck trails, 33 bridges, and both Goodwin and Prince Edward Lakes, now the centerpieces of Twin Lakes State Park. The men also thinned 500 acres of forest, planted 4,500 trees, and performed 3,142 hours of firefighting duty. In addition, the company conducted an education program to reduce illiteracy among its members. Quite a feat in a few short years. We owe so much to the work that they completed during that time. This shelter has been here since then, and it's been the point of celebration over the generations for weddings, birthdays, family gatherings. I can visualize all those things happening here, and what a joyous gift you've given to so many for so long. It's a long time coming, but it's so important that we recognize the service and accomplishments of Camp Gallion and honor their lasting legacy. Turning our attention to a member of that great CCC group of young men, Reverend Dr. John Henry Brown, I would like to share a little bit of his legacy with you as we celebrate his contributions. Dr. Brown worked on many projects while a member of the CCC during his teenage years. I saw some quotes where he recently recalled spending time digging out the lakes, moving sand for the beaches, among many other things here at the park. Dr. Brown, now 96 years young, would like to feel that way as I move closer to 70 every year, is most likely the only surviving member of the company that he served with. Here's a little piece to paraphrase from a newspaper article that I recently saw that his daughter, who's going to join us in a few minutes here with some comments wrote. Another time later in the same year, 1941, at the post office, Dr. Brown overheard a conversation about President Roosevelt's program, the Civilian Conservation Corps. It sounded great and it would enhance the quality of my life, he said. I was only 16, so I told them I was 17. My mom did not care because she would be getting paid each month and she had money to feed our family. What a tremendous contribution to country, to community, and to your family. Today, the Department of Conservation and Recreation and the Virginia State Parks is proud to dedicate this shelter to Civilian Conservation Corps Company 1390, Camp Gallion, and the contributions of you, sir, so many years ago that have lived on all these years and will live on into the future. Thank you. And with that, I will introduce Dr. Yemaja Jubilee, Dr. Brown's daughter.
To me, it was a labor of love because my father has told me a whole bunch of stories. I have a whole lot of stories about his life and the things that he not only accomplished here, but in his community, in his family, and far wide. And a lot of you here are aware of that, so I won't repeat that. But I was so impressed because I got asked to write a column for the Charlotte Gazette called Growing Up Under Jim Crow. And so I made selective thoughts about who I was going to write about, and was I going to write about my experience. But a lot of the experiences that I have are intertwined with what my father has done, with the Ku Klux Klan and going to the March on Washington. He was a part of all of that. But when I go back to this story in particular, what I was impressed most of all about it was about how he looked out for his family. How he looked out for his family. And then he tells the story, Junior and Tiger heard the story about when he was here, how the young ladies used to come down and over the dances on the weekend. But he has a lot of stories. So it's time, I felt that it's time, because we have people as African Americans, as black, as people of color, whatever you want to call it, with from African descent, need to be recognized for what they contributed. And here's a man locally, for many of you, it's locally in our community that made he enjoyed, but he knew what he was doing. But the sacrifice, look what you enjoy today as a result of that. And I am just honored as his daughter and as a part of his legacy. This is what is happening. This is creating a legacy for the Brown family. So generations to come, grandchildren, great-grandchildren can come down here and see what this man did. I love my father, and I will continue to support him. And I thank all of you for coming, and I again thank the park for recognizing the importance of doing this, because this is historical for you all as well. It's not just for him, but to be able to have somebody that's still alive who did this is phenomenal, for lack of a better word. So again, I want to thank you all for doing this, and it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good, right, Dad?
Yeah. This is the greatest move that any president could have made. In the time when the CCC Camp started, there were no jobs. And Roosevelt, I mean, he was the greatest president. He was preparing for war. And you know, we didn't even understand it. And I volunteered to put my age up just to get in there. I'll tell you, that was the greatest thing ever moved. The CCC camp right here about it, and I was glad to get in. My mother was glad to get in. She had a check coming. I think it was $7 a month. And I put away some of it to keep, you know. And I got out of the CCC camp, she just spent all that too. But it was the greatest move we ever had. We didn't have no jobs and nothing to do. And the very same thing that they taught us here in the CCC camp, they taught the same thing when I came to the United States Navy. Same thing. It followed me. I took care of the officers' quarter, put my age up so I get in there. I tell you, some of the guy was hungry. But I'm glad about it. I'm so happy about it. And then Sister Roosevelt, President Roosevelt, Miss Roosevelt, she fixed the flowers up all down the highway. That was a nice observation. So I'm happy. It was a pleasure. I'm happy to see these old CCC things, trees, old logs and things. It's just a blessing as it go on and on and on. Thank you all. Thank the whole United States, the whole government. It's been my pleasure. It walked good, but I feel thank you.
Can you tell them about there was the first pair of new boots you had? You got, which because it came to the CC camp. First pair of new outfit, 3 meals a day you got because you were in the CC camp. That's one of the stories that he tells.
Wow.
Because you had never had a boots.
You know?
Had never had boots and 3 meals a day. I like that story. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, we have a gift we want to give you.
Oh, right.
It's a plaque, and it is in the form of a ranger hat. And in state parks, the ranger hat is really special to us. In fact, I just got my first one since I've come here. My other jobs, I didn't get one. The ranger hat's a symbol of our commitment to managing these special places, to making people feel welcome, to serving their needs, to providing recreation experiences. And it's a symbol of us being in the forever business, because what we do now, it lasts forever. And so giving you this plaque with the ranger hat is by design, because what you did lasts forever. And so this plaque says, Virginia State Parks thanks the Reverend Dr. John Henry Brown for his service with the 1390th Company of the Civilian Conservation Corps in the construction of Twin Lakes State Park. So please accept this with the deepest of our gratitude for everything that you did.
As many of you all knew my mother, Marie Brown, and many of you know that without her, we would not be standing right here today. So everything that we do, we have to recognize those that came before us and what they contribute. My mother so loved everybody, and there's not one person here that can say she did, especially my dad. So in honor of that, her 2 grandsons are going to sing one of my mother's favorite songs called Pray For Me, which she sung with the Willing Sisters, as well as in churches and places that she went. And this is John Edward Brown Jr. and Reverend Tyrone Brown.
Somebody prayed for me, had me on their mind, took the time and prayed for me. I'm so glad they prayed. I'm so glad they prayed. I'm so glad they prayed for me. Well, my mother prayed for me. Yes, she did. She had me on her mind. Praise God. She took the time and prayed for me. I'm so glad she prayed. I'm so glad she prayed. I'm so glad she prayed for me. My preacher prayed for me. Yes, he did. He had me on his mind. He took the time and he prayed for me. I'm so glad he prayed. I'm so glad he prayed. I'm so glad he prayed for me. Grandfather. Grandfather prayed for me. Yes, he did.
Y'all need to put your hands
Had
together.
me on his mind.
Put your hands together.
Took the time and he prayed for me.
Y'all stand up and clap your hands. Come on here, get into it.
I'm so glad he prayed. Hallelujah. I'm so glad he prayed. Love you,
All right.
Daddy. I'm so glad he prayed for me. So Somebody prayed for me, praise the Lord. They had me on their mind. Yes, they did. They took the time and prayed for me. I'm so glad they prayed. I'm so glad they prayed. I'm so glad they prayed for me.
So these are the interpretive signs that folks will be able to come and read about the 1390th and you as well as they come to visit the park and see what the legacy is that Dr. Brown and the rest of his company left.
Wow.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
So that concludes the program that we have for today. Thank you all so much for coming out and being a part of this. Thank you, Dr. Brown, for coming and spending the afternoon with us, and thank you for everything that you've done for parks, for our country. It's such an honor for me to meet you. And have a wonderful afternoon.
I'm so glad they prayed. I'm so glad they prayed for